minutes after 2. Got a little long, sorry. Parties are present, jury is not present. Ms. Sorgan, anything before we bring the jury back?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Sand?
No, sir.
All right, bring the jury in. Officer, you can come back up. Jury is now present. Ms. Sorghum, do you waive roll call of the jury?
State with roll call.
Mr. Sand?
We do as well, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sand, the witness is still on the stand. Do you wish to cross-examine?
I do, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Can you hear me there? Great. How you doing, Detective Asham?
I'm doing well.
Good. So you're the case agent for the state on this case, is that correct?
Correct.
You're the lead investigator?
It was a collaboration, but I guess as a case agent, I could be lead investigator.
Okay. You obviously, based on your testimony, you weren't around the Minot PD back in 2007.
No, I was not.
And I know you've already answered this, but for just to refresh me, when did you join Minot PD?
2011.
Okay. And as lead investigator on this case, you reviewed the file, correct?
The majority of it, yes.
Okay. So you're aware of the officers that worked on the file?
Yes.
You aware of Officer McLoud?
Yes.
You aware of his participation in the investigation?
I know there's a report on the case file from him.
Okay. And that he interviewed Shannon Dogskin?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Collected buccal swabs? And that he's logged a bunch of evidence in the case as well. Does that sound right?
Likely, I don't know.
Okay. But you've reviewed the file?
Most of it, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to come right back to that. You had said that in reviewing the file, there was things that had been lost, things that were unable to be put back together in your investigation of it?
No, what I said, there was things that we didn't have in our possession.
But you got them all?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
You didn't get them all?
No.
What kind of stuff?
There are recordings from BCI that we never received.
Any recordings from interviews of people by the Minot PD?
I'm unaware of any, no. I'm unaware of any recordings from Minot PD that we did not have.
Okay, I'll come back to that. Thank you. So you're aware of the Detective McLeod's supplemental report regarding Shannon Dogskin?
I know that it exists, yes.
Okay. Where is Officer McLoud now? Do you know?
He's deceased.
When did he pass away?
January of 2025.
Okay. So you've already told us that he did work on the case. You're the lead investigator on the case. Are you aware of a report from Clark Hill that came out in March here?
Yes,
Have you reviewed it?
in part.
Were you deposed on it this last week?
Yes,
Are you in that report?
yes.
Are you aware of the allegations in the report?
Can you expand on that?
Are you aware that Officer McLoud has been investigated before he died for child rape?
Objection. Relevance.
Mr. Sand?
I'm getting to that, Your Honor.
No.
Okay.
Give it to me
Explain
now.
the relevance.
I do.
This report we received on Monday. Detective Asham is the lead investigator in the case.
This case.
The case that we're sitting here for right now for trial, Your Honor.
Correct.
The causal connections between an investigator in this case, Officer McLoud, who worked on this case, which I've just established, his relationship with Detective Asham and what's contained in this report is important for credibility under, I believe it's 607, Your Honor, as an exception to 404. And credibility of a witness is always important, especially when they're the lead investigator of the case and they're the case agent and the only witness who's been able to sit through the entire trial unsequestered. Now, she's been able to sit here and testify to everything that's been gone over. No other witnesses have been allowed to do that. She's the only one. 607 allows for credibility to come in, and nothing goes to that more than what's in this report.
Ms. Sorgan?
Well, Your Honor, I understand that that's the defense's position on that. Sergeant Asham's been permitted to sit here because the rules of evidence allow us to have a case agent, which she is and has been designated that, and that's why she's been here throughout these proceedings. As it pertains to whether or not that report has anything to do with her credibility, a report that came out in 2025 with regards to a case that was investigated for a crime that occurred in 2007 and charges that were brought in 2022, I fail to see the relevance.
May I have a brief response?
You may.
I've established that Officer McLeod worked on this case. I've established that she's the lead investigator and the case agent. I've also established that she told me all the recordings from the Minot PD have been collected and reviewed.
That she's aware of.
That she's aware of, but I've been in touch, and I believe that's not true, and I'm about to tease that out on my cross here, Your Honor. And what's in this report refers directly to that as well. Radio Giglio issues.
Your thought is that that report deals with information from 2007?
It deals with information regarding people who investigated and worked on this case that have issues with exactly what she's talking about in terms of preservation of evidence on an 18-year-old case. And credibility. I'm not leaving that argument out.
All right. I'm going to allow her to answer the question. Can you repeat it, please?
If I can remember it.
It had to do with whether or not she was aware of Officer McLeod's charge.
Investigations in Valley City, Ada County, Idaho, and Butte, Montana regarding child rape.
I'm aware he was under investigation. I don't know all the details.
And he worked on this case.
There's a report on this case. I don't know the details of his involvement.
But you've told us that you've looked through the entire case file.
No, I didn't. I said I've looked through a majority of the case file.
Okay. I'll bring that back up for you. This is a case narrative from Sergeant Sunbakken. Could you take a look at that first paragraph and I can ask that question to you again? Sees Sergeant Detective McLeod's name in there?
Yes?
That he collected evidence, buccal swab particularly?
Yes?
It's a transcript of a conversation with Sergeant Dogskin by Detective McLeod. You can take as long as you want.
With Sergeant Dogskin?
I'm sorry. Mrs. Dogskin, Miss Dogskin. More or less, I would just want you to take a look and see that McLeod performed that
Okay. Do you want me to review the content, or
If you like.
it's up to you?
No. You wanted to know if that's who did it, and she said yes.
Is that, okay,
Yes.
thank you. This is a supplemental report for Detective McLeod. It's found in case found it was sent to us regarding Ms. Dogskin.
I believe Shannon Dogskin is a male.
Okay. Well, Mr. Dogskin then. Does that sound like Mr. McLeod's report?
It says it's his report.
And then I can walk you through these if you want, or I can just tell you there's many of these in the report. It's evidence capturing McLeod's names on it. Would you like me to show it to you?
No, I believe you.
Do you know any more of the details regarding the investigation in Mr. McLeod before he committed suicide?
No.
Objection, relevance.
I think we've established that it may be relevant, so we'll rule your objection with regard to any more details. Her response was no.
Now, the truthfulness of Mr. McLeod is at issue here. He was an agent who worked on this case. Are you aware that in the report he said he never had an affair with anybody at work?
I'm unaware of that.
You're not aware of that. If I showed you part of that report, would that help you remember?
Like I said, I did not review the entire report, so I don't know what it
You were
says.
regarding it earlier this week, weren't you?
I was.
You didn't review it before the deposition?
Only the part that it pertained to me.
Then we can move to that part. Did you review page 29 where it says that he engaged in an inappropriate relationship with Carmen Asham?
I don't know the page numbers, but
You recall that? I
yes.
can show it to you. That would help you. It's that top paragraph. There's a text chain below. You done reviewing it? So is it fair to say that the report said that you engaged in an inappropriate relationship with Officer McLoud?
Yes.
What can you tell us about that relationship?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled. He's established that this is a credibility question.
He was a friend of mine.
Anything more?
He pressured me into inappropriate activity.
Tell me about that inappropriate activity.
He had kissed me on more than one occasion.
I have the report here. Anything
I'm
else?
aware. He also had touched me
Where did this go on?
at the police department.
Okay. Did he instruct you to delete files and emails, and you said you would?
He had told me to delete one specific email with a file attached.
Okay. And you did that?
Yes.
That's in this report as well. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Now, have you seen your text conversations in this report?
Yes.
Now I'm going to jump to something else and then come right back here. You'll have to forgive me with the paper. You know how many pages are in this thing. This is a case narrative from Sergeant Goodman, way back in the day in 2007. Do you recall reviewing a case narrative from Sergeant Goodman on June 22nd that he and Detective Barnard interviewed Devin Hall?
I read Detective Goodman's report, so I'm sure I did.
I showed it to you. Would it help you?
Sure.
Could you look at that whole last paragraph all the way to the end? You had a chance?
Mm-hmm.
You recall reading about that interview?
Yes.
Do you recall Detective Goodman telling Devin Hall that he showed him the side with the Indian head of the knife?
And that's what it says, yes.
And that he said the head's missing on the other side, and then he flipped the knife over and it was missing?
Correct.
Did you also read at the bottom that it says see attached interview in the case file, that they recorded it?
Yes.
Are you aware that that recording doesn't exist, hasn't made its way to anyone?
No, I'm not aware.
Okay. I was wondering when you were talking about evidence missing if that was something you knew about. Seems pretty important in the case to me, don't you think so?
It could potentially be.
An interview of a guy who says he's got the murder weapon specifically before the cop even says that the Indian head's missing on the other side. He said, yeah, mine's missing the Indian head though. And he flips it and it's missing. And we don't have that. Doesn't that seem crazy?
I suppose.
Yeah, or we lost it, I guess.
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
Yes, so withdraw that. I apologize. You said you reviewed the parts of this Clark Hill report that pertain to you, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall, I guess before I refresh you, do you recall Officer McLoud telling you delete that file and email and then you texting back okay?
Yes.
You were saying, did you tell them you sent it to me, or are they checking people's email?
Yes.
Ashley got put on AL for doing it.
Is that a question?
Do you recall that? I'm sorry.
Yes. Do you recall that these encounters in the report are alleged to have taken place between you and Officer McLoud in the evidence room? No.
Where did they take place?
In the hallway and in the crime lab.
In the crime lab. Thank you for correcting me. Where did Officer McLoud commit suicide?
At the first.
Objection, relevance.
Yes, Mr. Sand, what's the relevance?
I'll withdraw, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Do you recall in the report that it says Lieutenant McLoud provided Sergeant Asham with information she would have not otherwise accessed?
Yes.
When their relationship became physical, it occurred only at the police department.
Correct.
You recall in the Clark Hill report under inappropriate workplace behavior, it said some text messages revealed that Sergeant Asham lacked confidence in her abilities as a police officer, supervisor, and suggested that she was suffering from imposter syndrome.
I do not recall reading that, no.
I'll give you a look at the report, see if you can remember. Be in this paragraph right here. You recall that now?
I never read that part, but I see it there now.
Okay. You lacked confidence in your abilities as a police officer. You're the lead investigator on one of the biggest murder cases in North Dakota history. Do you think that's an issue?
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, again, you said you've reviewed the file or most of the file. I can't really remember. Did you read the whole file?
No,
How much of the file?
I couldn't say with certainty.
But you're testifying up here as to the file, correct?
Correct?
The majority of what you know in this case comes from stuff that happened way back in the day in 2007 that you reviewed, correct?
In conjunction with Detective Talbot. It was a collaboration.
Okay. You talked about a train trip, right?
Yes.
You aware that in the file that was sent over to me are the train logs between Minot and Wolf Point from 5:16 to 6:10?
Yes.
Have you seen that?
I probably did, but it's been a while.
Let me know if you recall if Devin Hall's name's anywhere on there.
It's not.
Okay. So it doesn't say that he took the Sunday train over?
No.
Oh, okay. But you've been sitting in here, Detective Asham, and we had Detective Talbot and yourself say that he took the train over on Sunday.
Correct.
Okay. It's a big part of this case.
Objection. Is that a question?
I'll withdraw and I apologize.
Sustained. Thank you.
Now, we talked about this, we'll call him the running man, the 6'2" young Native American man that was running from the apartment complex the girls were in north. You recall that testimony?
I recall the report that he was running in the area.
Do you recall testifying about it just a minute ago?
Yes.
And then you said that was all cleared up, that you got in touch with the guy who looked Hispanic or something like that.
Correct.
When did that happen?
I believe that was sometime in 2008. He came forward.
Okay. So he came forward a year after.
Yes.
And he knew he was running that day, that morning, right in front of there.
Yes.
Okay. When in 2008 do you think that happened?
I don't recall.
Okay. Because you were sitting in here when I showed the news release from October 7th, 2008, almost 18 months after, where they were still looking for that Native American man.
I don't recall that, but
Well, I showed it to Detective Barnard. Can I refresh your
Sure.
recollection? I'm trying to do my math. I'll wait till you take a look at it. Is it your understanding that this gentleman came forward more than 18 months after?
it would appear so, yes.
It would appear so. How?
if that,
But you weren't there in 2007, were you?
no, I was not.
Do you know how many months after June of 2007, October of 2008 is?
I could do the math, I guess, yes.
I'd appreciate it if you would.
Probably 16 months.
Okay. Now you're here for everybody's testimony, but you were here for Detective Talbot's testimony, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall her talking about Vern Olson in relation to Marty?
Yes.
When you talked to Vern, what did Vern tell you?
I didn't talk to
You
Vern.
didn't talk to Vern. Oh, okay.
Objection. Argumentative, Your Honor.
I didn't know she had, Your Honor, but I'll withdraw that. I apologize.
Yeah, I'm not buying it, Mr. Sand.
Okay. I'll ease up.
Thank you.
You hadn't talked to Vern Olson.
No.
Lead investigator on the case, you hadn't talked to Vern Olson.
Objection. Asked and answered.
Sustained. Asked and answered.
Yes, Your Honor. But you were here when Detective Talbot testified about their call and the substance of it the night that Marty killed himself, correct?
Correct.
You recall what she said?
Yes.
What was that?
He told her that I believe Marty had mentioned something about something happened or he was dealing with something. I guess I'm just paraphrasing. I don't know the exact phrasing.
Okay. Would it be fair to say he had something heavy on his heart and he hadn't been the same after Anita died?
I don't think it was that specific, but
Okay. Do you recall in the report and through her testimony that Marty had decorative knives?
yes,
Okay. Folding knives?
I believe so.
Now, the state was asking you about the FBI's involvement, correct?
Yes.
And you were here when Detective Barnard testified, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall from Detective, and in your review of Detective Barnard's report, that he said they felt Devin Hall was the best suspect after reviewing the case?
I believe it says that somewhere, yes.
Okay. Do you recall that that's because the knife came from Montana, he hid in a girl's room, found the knife in the kitchen shortly after the homicide occurred?
No, I don't recall that.
Would it help if I refresh your
Sure.
recollection with that report?
Which part?
Right here. Thank you. Does that help you refresh your recollection?
Yes, that's what it says.
Thank you. Your Honor, I apologize if it takes me a minute. It's a full case file, so I'm trying to run through it as quickly as possible.
Take the time you need, Mr.
Thank you.
Sand.
Thank you, sir. Now, the state had asked you about Devin Hall's criminal history. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did you look into that at all?
As much as I could.
his federal conviction?
Yes.
What was that for?
I believe that was for he had broken into someone's home and sexually assaulted a female.
Have you looked through his Fort Peck tribal records?
No, I don't believe I had access to that.
And you're aware of the incident that sparked this whole thing for Devon Hall regarding him just days after the murder breaking into another woman's window?
Correct. I don't believe that was a woman. It was a couple, I think.
The woman was the one that identified him, though, is that right, originally?
No, I believe it was a male.
And I'll come back to that in a minute. Obviously, we got thousands of pages of paper here, but just to clarify that, just days later, he was arrested for breaking into an apartment.
That was about a week to 10 days after.
Okay.
It was June 11th.
June 11th, and what day did police respond to Anita's apartment?
June 4th.
June 4th. And he was found in the closet with a knife?
Yes.
Okay. Did you review the Tyler Schmalz evidence at all in the file?
I read through the interviews.
Anything regarding a picture he drew of a girl in class?
Objection, relevance.
Oh, it's very relevant, Your Honor.
We don't have enough of that, Ms. Sorgan, so overruled. But try to connect it, please.
I will, Your Honor. I need to make sure that she has seen it first.
Seen the picture? No.
In the
I remember it being mentioned in somebody's statement, not his.
Where a girl had turned him down and he drew a picture of him stabbing her in the breasts and vagina?
I remember that in somebody else's statement.
Okay. Did you ever talk to Tyler Schmalz?
I did.
Are you aware that he said that Anita was going to a date at a truck stop in his interview with Detective Barnard?
I believe he said something about that. I'm not sure which day that was supposed to be.
Okay. And you're aware he went to prom with Anita, correct?
Allegedly, yes.
Allegedly from whom? From him?
I've heard that from a few people.
And they lived in the same apartment building, correct?
No, not the same building, the same complex.
Same complex. Thank you. Had you read in the reports that they were concerned he was obsessed with Anita?
Yes.
It's a June 5th, 2000 interview, front page. Barnard, Tyler Schmalz. Just look at this one line. Regarding prom. Okay. Does Tyler say they went to prom together in there?
He did.
Just want to make sure I'm not crazy. I appreciate it. Murphy investigated this case as well.
She was one of the investigators on it, yes.
She passed away as well.
She has.
When did that happen?
I don't remember the year. It's been a few years.
2022 around there.
That sounds about right, yes.
Did you review her reports? They were upfront case narratives, kind of front and center.
Yep, I read her reports.
Okay. Do you recall her discussing her interview with Juan Washington?
I do not recall that, no.
Do you recall him in the interview saying, I guess in reviewing this file, specifically Sergeant Murphy's, did you learn that Juan Washington had saw Native
Objection. Your Honor, she just testified she doesn't remember this interview or having reviewed it. How could she remember anything specific?
The report I remember, I don't remember anything about Juan Washington.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you a specific? Oh, I'm sorry.
Hang on, that's what I heard, so your objection's overruled. You can
Thank
continue.
you. I'll ask you if you remember this portion of the case file of the report. If you don't, I'll refresh your recollection. Do you recall learning from reading this report and specifically the entire case file, specifically this report, that there was a Native American male that hung around there and went to Club 101?
No, I don't recall that.
Okay. Gonna have you review from where it says Washington here to the end. Thank you. Detective. Do you have a chance to review that?
I did.
Does this man talk about a Native American male that was coming and going from that apartment?
From the area, yes.
Yeah. Are you sure he doesn't say comes and goes from that apartment? I can show you that. sentence.
Show me again. And that's what it says.
And he talks about Club 101 in there as well, correct?
Yes.
You put an investigative report together, correct?
Correct.
You talked about the people that had keys to that apartment, right?
Yes.
Marty Annell was one of those people.
Yes.
Laura Knapp was one of those people.
Yes.
You saw Laura testifying earlier, didn't you?
I did.
You recall that she said that her and Marty never discussed the murder after it happened at all?
Yes.
Okay. it's safe to say no police officers ever saw the location of the screen in person. They just took Marty's word for it. Is that right?
Can you clarify the location as in where he found it or where he took them to it?
Prior to the screen being brought to the workshop of Marty's, no police officers ever saw that screen.
Correct.
And you recall Mr. Gordon Knudson's testimony, correct?
Yes.
You recall that he said the screen was 100 feet from the window?
I recall he said that's what was told to him by by somebody.
Do you know of him talking to anyone else besides Mr. Annell when he got there?
I don't know.
Okay. Now, we had another detective talking earlier, I think. I'm starting to lose my place here about a curtain and a curtain rod, right?
Right.
And those were thrown back in the window by Mr. Annell.
Yes.
Okay. So they came out of the window at one point.
It would seem.
Now, I think I know the answer to this question, but I want to make sure I get it right. You weren't at the scene back in 2007 when this happened.
No.
So you're not aware that they brought Nichole to the scene?
I'm aware from the reports that stated that they brought her back.
Asked her if anything was missing of hers?
Correct.
Would that make sense that if something was missing, she would answer that when they ask her?
I would hope so.
Right. Were you there to see if they brought her through the scene?
I wasn't present.
How else would she know if anything was missing? She's not going to know from standing outside, is she?
Objection, argumentative, and asked and answered.
Overruled.
Is anything missing from the scene, Nichole? If they asked her that, what's the only plausible way she would figure that out and be able to answer them?
To look and see.
To go into the apartment. And they had her down there from the testimony and the file that you reviewed. They had her down there about 15 minutes after they got there, right?
No, my understanding is she was outside of the apartment at that point, and they brought her into the apartment the following day.
They brought her in the following day. They didn't bring her in that day.
That's what I understand, yes.
Okay. What day did they ask her if anything was missing?
I would assume it was the following day.
It was the following day. I'll come right back to that. Now, you were in here when Brenda Glintz testified, correct?
Correct.
She testified, and tell me if I heard it wrong, but it sounded like to me she said that Nichole went down to New Mexico in July of 2007.
Correct.
And she knew that because her son was in that rodeo down in Farmington.
Correct.
And that she was so sure on that ride up that Nichole told her all these things about the case. You recall that?
Yes?
But in fact, Nichole wasn't in New Mexico in 2007, was she?
No.
When was she there?
2008.
A year later.
Yes.
We're going to go back to that break-in that Devin did a few days after, I think you said a week after, Anita's murder. I found the report. It's in the case file, Officer Kevorkian, what a name. And the other one's Officer Schoenrock. Do you recall reviewing those?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall the dispatch received a call from a person named Tara Steele?
I don't recall the name.
Okay. And I was asking you because we're just trying to figure out if it was a man or a woman. Do you remember that?
Correct. And as I recall, there were two separate,
He broke into 2 apartments?
yes.
Okay. The other woman was named Amanda Jane Stewart. Does that sound right?
I don't know that name. The name I'm thinking of is Jason Lovely. That was the other one.
Jason Lovely, I believe, is in here as well. Do you remember the intruder exited the apartment out the same window he came in?
Yes.
And then he was brought to Ward County Detention Center, right?
Correct.
So we're in Minot a couple days later. Devin Hall's going in a window, coming out the same window. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Did you review the DNA records? I know one of them is in evidence here. So you may have seen it come in there.
I've looked at the lab report, yes.
Were you here for Dr. Gebhardt's testimony?
Yes, I don't believe she's a doctor, but yes.
Amy Gebhardt's testimony. Thank you.
Yes.
You recall that Anita had male DNA under the fingernails?
Yes.
You recall the testimony of April Moulton when you were sitting here?
Yes.
Remember she had told the officers that she knew that Anita had been stabbed?
I don't remember that.
I can help you.
Please do.
You want to pull up April Moulton in case you can get it before I... Might have to come back to this one as well. Hopefully my crew can find it for me over there. you said cold justice came in for 10 days, correct?
About that, yeah.
Okay. What day did you guys interview Devin Hall on those 10 days?
We did not.
Earlier, you were testifying, you went through persons of interest. You said Marty, Nichole, Tyler Schmalz, and Michael Van, correct?
Correct.
You didn't say Devin Hall.
I did not.
You didn't talk to Vern Olson either.
Detective Talbot talked to him.
Okay, you did.
I did not.
Now, you were reviewing in evidence a bunch of different interviews of Nichole, correct?
Correct.
How old was Nichole when this happened?
18 or 19?
18 or 19. How many years ago was it?
18, 17 years ago?
Half her lifetime ago, it sounds like. Right?
Sure.
When was the last interview you had with her? What year was that?
2022?
So these interviews took place over a period of 15, 16 years.
Yes.
Now, there's something I learned during your testimony that I must have missed. Devin Hall broke into a kitchen at a hotel, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you did interview Mark and Brenda Glenn's.
Yes.
Mark said that he saw Nichole at the Cenex, right? Or right around the Cenex.
Yes.
Okay. Looking through the file, did you ever find a time when Nichole didn't come in to talk to the police?
No?
She came in every time.
Yes.
Did she have a lawyer with her any of those times that you saw?
Objection.
What's the objection?
Would be her right to have one.
That still wasn't the question. Overruled.
Not when she talked to me.
How about the other ones? Did you see any evidence of that reviewing these old reports?
It wasn't referenced in any of the reports, no.
Now, there was testimony earlier, I believe it was from Sergeant Goodman and possibly Sergeant Barnard, that they were concerned with Nichole's demeanor, right? Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do you have? Thank you. recall finding out that Nichole was crying when she showed up? Can I refresh your recollection?
Please.
This is a June 5th, 2007 report of Detective Barnard. Please just read those first two questions and answers. You recall that now?
Yes.
Do you want these back or can I put them?
Unless I need them.
Let me know. And I apologize. I got my witnesses screwed up. When I asked you about April Moulton, it was Michelle Grubbs, who at that time was Michelle Zayas. Do you recall her saying that she knew that Anita had been stabbed in her interview?
I don't know.
Okay. I have a report for you to look at. What page stamp is it? It's a June 5th interview, Michelle Zayas with Detective Barnard. It's a lengthy one. This is the page I'll have you refer to. Just the top question to Michelle here from Detective Barnard.
Okay.
She said she was raped and stabbed to death.
She did.
This is June 5th. What day did the police show up there?
June 4th.
How did people know she was stabbed?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll withdraw. Take your time. Thank you, Sergeant Asham. Or Detective Asham, I apologize.
All right. Ms. Sorgan, do you have any redirect?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. Sergeant, I'm going to go in order from Mr. Sand's questions, okay? All right. Sergeant, you said you reviewed the majority of the file.
Correct.
Why didn't you review the whole file?
It's a very large file, and when you're working on a large case like this and you're working in a partnership with another investigator, you divvy up responsibilities and one person reviews some stuff and the other person reviews the other.
Kind of like we've been seeing from the defense counsel, right?
Correct.
And who was your partner?
Detective Talbot.
Now, Mr. Sand asked you about the allegations in the Clark Hill report. And that he asked you if you were aware of the investigation against Lieutenant McLoud, correct?
Correct.
To your knowledge, would those allegations have been before, contemporaneous with, or after the events of the Anita Knutson murder?
After.
Approximately how far after?
16 years.
You said that Lieutenant McLoud pressured you into inappropriate activity.
Correct.
Okay. And that activity included what?
He kissed me and he touched me.
Did it have anything to do with your duties as a police officer?
No.
You were asked to delete one email with an attachment, correct?
Yes.
What was that?
The attachment was a copy of a administrative internal report into then Chief Klug.
Okay. And what version of that report was that?
That was the unredacted version.
Was that report supposed to be disseminated?
No, it was not.
Okay. In fact, you were asked about Ashley on AL for that as a text message, correct?
Correct.
What does AL mean?
Administrative leave.
Okay. So what happened as a consequence? Why did that come about?
Because that report was violating state law by being sent out because it was the unredacted version of the report.
Violated a lot of people's HIPAA rights, didn't it?
Correct.
And was Lieutenant McLoud the only one who ordered you to delete that?
No.
Who else ordered you to delete it?
Lieutenant Wagner and Captain Sunbakken.
Okay. So several of your commanders, correct?
Correct.
You were asked about contact between yourself and Lieutenant McLoud occurring in the hallway and in the crime lab. Can you please describe the crime lab?
The crime lab is just a location in the police department where we store most of our crime scene supplies for collecting evidence.
Okay. Is this the same crime lab that Amy Gebhardt works out of?
No, it's not.
Okay. Not even the same county, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. And what was in the crime lab at the time that you and Lieutenant McLoud engaged in any kind of physical contact?
Just equipment and supplies.
Any evidence?
No.
Mr. Sand asked you about that you were privy to information that you wouldn't otherwise have access to because of Lieutenant McLoud. You remember that question?
I do.
What info was he referring to?
He would just tell me about complaints on other officers that they had received.
Okay. Was there some information with regards to your promotion?
He also had sent me a text one point to tell me that I had received a position in investigations.
Okay. Did you already know about that?
I did.
Okay. So this wasn't him giving you information that you didn't already have access to, was it?
Correct.
All right. I want to ask you about the question of the Running Man sketch that we've been talking about. And Mr. Sand made it clear to you that that sketch came out in October 2008, right?
Yes.
Would you have expected the individual who came forward to have done so before that sketch?
No.
Okay. Why not?
How would he know it is out there?
And how soon after the sketch was published did this individual come forward?
I don't know the exact time frame, but it was within the month or so.
Okay. We heard a lot about the fact that you didn't speak with Vern Olson, but that there was a report that Marty had decorative knives or folding knives, correct?
Correct.
All right. Was there ever any indication that the knife that was located at the crime scene belonged to Marty?
No.
Mr. Sand asked you about Devon Hall's federal conviction for sexual assault of a female.
Yes.
What happened with that case? What was the underlying fact pattern, if you're aware?
Objection, Your Honor. That's a mischaracterization of what the charges and convictions were.
I thought it was, no,
It was a burglary conviction, Your Honor.
burglary. Yeah, I remember the judgment. Okay.
He asked her about sexual assault.
I understand that. So your question is you're going to agree with him about that? So can you rephrase your question, please?
Sure. Sergeant Asham, you were asked by Mr. Sand about a sexual assault that Devon Hall allegedly committed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know what the underlying fact pattern to that was?
I believe he entered someone's home and laid down next to them in bed.
Okay. Did he kill that person?
No.
You were asked about Devon Hall breaking into an apartment on June 11th, 2007, and he was in a closet with a knife, right?
Yes.
All right. Where did he get that knife from?
From the kitchen of that apartment that he broke into.
Okay. And why did he have that knife?
Because individuals were chasing him.
Now, you were also asked about Tyler Schmaltz.
Yes.
And a picture that he allegedly drew.
Yes.
Did you ever see the picture in the case file?
No.
Based upon the information that you were able to garner through learning through the investigation, how old was Tyler at the time this picture was allegedly drawn?
I believe it was in an elementary school.
Okay. And Tyler mentioned in one of the case reports that Anita had gone to a truck stop was meeting someone at a truck stop for a meal or a date?
Yes.
Okay. You were present for Michelle's testimony, correct?
Yes.
Where did she say that they went after the tattoo?
To Shots Crossroads, which is a truck stop.
You were asked about Sergeant Murphy interviewing an individual and that there was a native male who was hanging around Club 101, right?
Yes.
What's your understanding of the frequency of native males in Minot?
It's quite frequent.
It's a large native population in Ward County, isn't there?
Yes.
Okay. Why is that?
There's a reservation nearby.
Would it be unusual for someone to have spotted a native male in and around the city of Minot?
No, not at all.
You were asked quite extensively with regards to your awareness of whether or not officers took the defendant back to the scene to determine if anything was missing, correct?
Correct.
Right. What is your understanding about whether or not the scene had been processed before she was permitted back into the apartment?
Based on their testimony and the reports that I reviewed, it sounded like the scene had been processed and evidence had been collected prior to her entering the apartment.
Would she have had the opportunity to see the items that you identified as holdbacks?
Objection, Your Honor. She said she wasn't there. She stated it. I don't know how she could know that.
Yeah, she phrased the question differently, so overruled, she can answer it.
Based upon what you have reviewed in the case file and what you have heard in the testimony in this case, would she have had the opportunity to have observed the items identified as holdbacks?
No.
You were asked again about the break-in on June 11th from Devon Hall. Was he apprehended?
Yes.
Where?
In the apartment?
So he got caught breaking in, didn't he?
Yes.
Did he kill the tenants?
No.
Did he harm the tenants?
No.
You reviewed you were asked about the DNA report and that there was male DNA under Anita's fingernails, correct?
Yes.
Multiple fingernails or one fingernail?
I don't recall.
And you testified on direct examination that DNA doesn't have a timestamp, right?
Right.
So we don't know when that DNA got underneath her nails, right?
Correct.
You were asked about Michelle knowing that Anita had been stabbed on June 5th, correct?
Yes.
Was the stabbing a holdback?
No, it was not.
Michelle on June 5th had said that Anita had been raped and stabbed, correct?
Yes.
Was Anita raped?
No.
Any indication of sexual assault?
No.
You were also asked about the fact that Nichole was young at the time of the interviews, the initial interview with crime, correct?
Yes.
And the interviews occurred over the next 15 years, right?
Yes.
Right. The date of the initial interview with Detective Barnard occurred what date?
June 4th, 2007.
The day of the murder.
Yes.
The interview with Sergeant Goodman, what date?
I believe it was June 11th, 2007.
1 week later, right?
Yes.
The date of the interview was with Special Agent Meixner,
May 6th, 2010.
3 years later, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so the interview that occurred latest in time was the one with you, wasn't it?
Yes.
You were also present with regards to the questions about Nichole's demeanor, right?
Yes.
And so what Sergeant Goodman and Detective Barnard felt, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you had been asked by Mr. Sand about the fact that that the transcript indicates that she was crying on June 4th, correct?
Correct.
All right. You also were present for Detective Barnard's testimony and Matt Hansen's testimony that Nichole had to basically be told that she was going to be taken to the scene if she didn't show up, right?
Correct.
And just to clarify, Sergeant, June 4th was the date that Anita was discovered. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the date that all of the facts and evidence have pointed to that she was actually murdered on?
June 3rd.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
All right, Mr. Sand, do you have any recross, sir?
Very short, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Now, the state had asked you on redirect in terms of Mr. Hall's break-in on Sioux Street if he didn't harm the tenants, correct? Do you recall that?
Yes.
You also recall when they asked him, his response was, I don't know, I've been in a lot of houses around here.
Sounds familiar.
If I show you the report,
Objection. This is beyond the scope.
it's not beyond the scope.
It's not overruled.
Now, do you recall in that report that was in the file, Officer Schoenrock said, I asked him why he was in those houses this morning. His response was, I've been in a lot of houses here.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Anything else, Ms. Sargan?
Yes, Your Honor. Sergeant Ashton, you were just asked about that. Are you aware of a further interview between Sergeant Goodman and Devin Hall that occurred in Wolf Point, Montana? Or
Yes.
occurred in Montana. Okay. What did you learn from listening to that interview?
Objection, this is beyond my redirect, which is very
It
limited.
is, Ms. Sargan.
I will connect very quickly, Your Honor.
With regard to what he asked.
Yes.
All right, I'll give you a couple.
What did you learn from listening to that interview with regards to whether or not Devin Hall had been in residences on the northwest corner of the city?
He had not been in that
Objection,
area.
Your Honor, that's not what I asked about.
He asked
Okay.
about, he's been in a lot of houses around here.
You need to ask that question, Ms. Sargan.
Okay.
Try not to lead her.
Okay. During that interview, what did Devin, were you able to learn whether or not Devin Hall had been in residences in northwest corner of the city?
Objection, Your Honor, I believe it's beyond the scope of recross.
Sustained.
Okay. Did you learn whether or not Devin Hall admitted to being in Anita Knudsen's
Objection, Your
apartment?
Honor, leading.
Sustained.
What did you learn from that interview?
Objection, Your Honor, beyond the scope of recross.
Well, again, she said that she was going to connect it once she got to the interview, so I'll give her that part. You can answer the question, ma'am, if you can.
What did you learn from the interview?
That he was staying in the area of Sioux Street and South Minot.
Okay. And what did you learn about his presence on the north side?
Objection, Your Honor, and I hate to keep making the objections, but it's beyond the
Sustained.
scope.
Nothing further.
Is the witness here by subpoena?
Well, she's our case agent, Your Honor.
Okay, you may have a seat, officer. Thank you. Do you have any other witnesses today, Ms. Sorgan?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
All right. Awkward time. Mr. Sand, I asked if you had any witnesses available. Do you know if you do or not?
We do, Your Honor.
Are they short or long? They're going to be long.
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor, sorry.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm going to break for the moment, at least your portion of this. I'm going to ask that you go back to the jury room. I'm hoping it will only be for a few minutes, but I can't promise that one at this time. And again, whether I bring you back today, I'm still not sure about. I don't want to be wasting any more time, but I'm going to do my best to see if we can get more in. I'm going to ask you again to please do not converse with any witness, any party, or any attorney in this case concerning any matter, direct any questions, or discuss any problems that you may have with the bailiffs. Do not read about, listen to, or view news accounts of this trial until you retire to deliberate your verdict. Please do not discuss the case, do not allow anyone to discuss the case with you, and do not use the internet or other electronic technology in any attempt to learn information about this case or communicate with your family, friends, or anyone else about this case. Please do not form nor express any opinion about this case until I've given it to you for your deliberations. I hope to repeat this instruction at each recess. If I fail to do so,